I'm recording this video with permission from Scholastic. So welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be reading chapter 13 of the Tale of Despereaux. I want you, if you guys missed any of the earlier chapters, you definitely want to listen to them in order, so go ahead and check out those videos, and if not, we're going to move on to chapter 13. This chapter is called Perfidy Unlimited. Stop and remember, do you guys remember the word perfidy? We learned it earlier. In one of the earlier chapters, and so if you've been here all along and you listen to those earlier chapters, stop and think, the author kind of indicated, and we ended up looking it up in the dictionary. So pause, see if you can remember what it is. Okay, so I actually went back and looked too because it's been a little while since we read it. And perfidy means deceitfulness or untrustworthiness, and that is what this chapter is titled. So I like how the author is doing this. She she hinted at a word earlier on and had us look it up, and now the reason she had us look it up is because it came into play later on. So I really like that we're learning some new vocabulary along the way. And so this chapter is called Perfidy Unlimited. Together the three mice traveled down, down, down. The thread around Despereaux's neck was tight. He felt as if it was choking him. He tugged at it with one paw. "Don't touch the thread," barked the second hood. "Yeah," echoed the first hood. "Don't touch the thread." They moved quickly, and whenever Despereaux slowed, one of the two hoods poked him in the shoulder and told him to keep moving. They went through holes in the wall and down golden stairs. They went past rooms with doors that were closed and doors that were flung wide. The three mice traveled across the marble floors and under heavy velvet drapes. They moved through warm patches of sunlight and dark pools of shade. This, thought Despereaux, was the world he was leaving behind, the world he knew and loved. And somewhere in it, the Princess P was laughing and smiling and clapping her hands to music, unaware of Despereaux's fate. That he would not be able to let the princess know what had become of him seemed suddenly unbearable to the mouse. "Would it be possible for me to have a last word with the princess?" Despereaux asked. "A word," said the second hood. "You want a word with a human." "I want to tell her what has happened to me." "Geez," said the first hood. He stopped and stamped one paw on the floor in frustration. "Cripes, you can't learn, can you?" The voice was terribly familiar to Despereaux. "Furlough?" he said. "What?" said the first hood irritably. Despereaux shuddered. His own brother was delivering him to the dungeon. His heart stopped beating and shrunk to a small, cold, disbelieving pebble. But then, just as quickly, it leapt alive again, beating with hope. "Furlough," Despereaux said, and he took one of his brother's paws in his own. "Please, let me go. Please, I am your brother." Furlough rolled his eyes. He took his paw out of Despereaux's. "No," he said. "No way." "Please," said Despereaux. "No," said Furlough. "Rules are rules." Reader, do you recall the word perfidy? As our story progresses, perfidy becomes an ever more appropriate word, doesn't it? Perfidy was certainly the word that was in Despereaux's mind as the mice finally approached the narrow, steep stairs that led to the black hole of the dungeon. They stood, the three mice, two with hoods and one without, and contemplated the abyss before them. And then Furlough stood up on his hind legs and placed his right paw over his heart. Oh, this is my left paw. Right paw. "For the good of the castle mice," he announced to the darkness, "we deliver this day to the dungeon a mouse in need of punishment. He is, according to the laws we have established, wearing the red thread of death." "The red thread of death?" repeated Despereaux in a small voice. Wearing the red thread of death was a terrible phrase, but the mouse didn't have long to consider its implications, because he was suddenly pushed from behind by the hooded mice. Here's a picture of the two hooded mice, one of them being Furlough, Despereaux's brother, and Despereaux getting escorted to the dungeon. The push was a strong one, and it sent Despereaux flying down the stairs into the dungeon. As he tumbled, whisker over tail, through the darkness, there were only two words in his mind. One was perfidy, and the other word that he clung to was P. Perfidy, P. Perfidy, P. These were the words that pinwheeled through Despereaux's mind as his body descended into the darkness. So this is a really interesting way to end this chapter. We learned that perfidy is really important because it's in the title of the chapter. We learned it earlier on, and the author also brought it up in the end of our chapter here. But it is interesting that Despereaux thought of the Princess P and the word that means just complete deceitfulness. And we learn here that Furlough, Despereaux's brother, is actually one of the hooded mice who is throwing him into the dungeon. So his brother is kind of betraying him, and he's not sticking up for him. So again, this is another little bit of a sad chapter. I promise the book will get happier, but you know, we have to have some action in here too. So I want you guys to stay tuned for our next video, and I'll see you then. Bye everyone.